Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, you know what he be talking about. Talking Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. How are the professors doing this week? I know y'all into your summer groove, doing your research, out on assignments. None of y'all are teaching in the summer session classes, man. What kind of people are y'all?
This is true, Doc. This is true. I guess enjoying, like you say, enjoying a little bit of summer groove.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Welcome to episode 270 of Inside HBCU Sports Lab, radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NCAA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, from filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, multi-Hall of Famer, that is Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Professor Washington.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, man? How you doing? I just want to say officially in front of everybody, congratulations. It's, you essentially an empty nester, man. You got the last one out, graduated, scholarship for lacrosse. I know you've been all over the world. Half the time you say you're on assignment work, but I know you was out doing double duty, getting your father time in, making sure your son got to do a little bit of his lacrosse. AAU circuit side. I don't know what y'all call it, lacrosse, you know, but making rounds because y'all global, at least national.
Yeah, it's basically, you might as well call it AAU. That's not the name for it, but it's about as active as the AAU. You might as well say it. So yeah, I appreciate it, Doc. Yes, it's surreal. You're the last one out the house.
So let's share with the people. Congratulations. You know, we tried to see if Hampton was interesting, but you know, we can't control everything. But sons signed scholarships. One is moving from the University of Michigan, Dearborn, NIA level to NCAA Division II. So now the brothers are going to be able to partner up and play together. Since they played in high school, I think that's really cool. I'm going to give you a chance to kind of share a little bit of that with the people out there. We don't get to share too much of the personal lifestyle, but sometimes it's good to let the people know we're human like everybody else.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool to have two sons playing for the same team. They know they're playing for a tough team. They got to put in work. Nothing's guaranteed. So, but I like the fact that they're moving to the hotbed of lacrosse, or one of the hotbeds in North Carolina. And they're not far from other HBCUs, even though they're not playing an HBCU. They're down the street from Shaw, around the street, down the corner from A&T and others. So a lot of those students end up at the same places. So they'll get some exposure to other HBCUs. But just the thing of having them play at the same, I don't have to make no decisions as to who to fly to go see. I know where we go. So
right, here's one trip. Well, you know, it's road trip. So let me know I'm good for a road trip. I want to go. Well, I'm going to get in a little bit of Professor Bishop's business because he has some congratulations out there too. You know, he sent a daughter. Syracuse happens to be the choice of destinations. This time a little bit off of the athletic framework, but it's still active when you talk about the talent of arts. In a lot of different ways. So let me make sure I share some love and give some people some personal side of Charles. how proud he is. Let the people know so you can share it with whomever and how much you would like.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm extremely proud of my eldest daughter, Clark. Theatrical talent. She's an actress, getting ready to go to Syracuse University, but she went to the High School for Performing and Visual Arts here in Houston, and she's now taking her talents on closer toward the Broadway stage, going up to upstate New York to Syracuse. So extremely proud. She's put in a tremendous amount of work, and she's extremely talented. So I couldn't be any more proud of her than I am.
I know that's no doubt about it. I will say this, it gets a little cold in those places, but I'm willing to travel as well as that too. Open bag will travel, so road trip.
Yeah, I know, right?
We'll make it
road trips, exactly. Looking forward to it.
But in all seriousness, as you got to come on the show, you were on assignment in Jackson, Mississippi. You got to talk a little bit about the action that was taking place on Thursday, but there were a couple of other days left. If you would kind of sum that up and let us know how all that came together. I heard Prime knows how to make sure folks are taken care of in terms of the dinners. So I need to let Coach Prime know, Cody, let him know Dr. Cavil is recruitable as well. I need to make sure, I'm a good side. I like to eat well as myself. So, a steak or two, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying, I heard, I verify that, but I understand that these young folks ate well. So, Cavil like to eat well too. So just let Coach Cody know, Dr. Cavil, it can be recruited.
No doubt. I mean, I'm trying to get in there too. I'm trying to get myself back in the portal, see how much eligibility I have left. So. But I tell you what,
like he don't get taken care of. He going to Coach Prime's rank. He ain't like the man that feed him. We know Coach Prime. He take care of folks. Don't try to sell us all this like you don't get all this hard work. Like you ain't get no pleasure. Come on, man. You gotta do better than that. Don't do Coach Prime like that. Tell the truth. Hey. Coach Prime takes care of folks now. Don't do that.
No doubt about it. Yeah, you better believe he does. Right. He does appreciate the pregame show. We appreciate the access that he's given us. But you talk about 3 days of campers. When you talk about Thursday, then Friday, well over 600 kids, a lot that were standing outside the gates. And then you had a 7-on-7 tournament Saturday that was pretty big as well, where you had a lot of high schools around the state of Mississippi, particularly in the Delta region of Mississippi. It's like they brought the entire school district from the Delta region down to Jackson. You had some Jackson area teams as well, but a huge 7-on-7 tournament that lasts throughout the day at Jackson State on 3 different fields. But you talk about from Thursday through Saturday, successful camp. When you talk about a lot of exposure that Jackson State University was able to receive in regards to a potential future generation of athletes looking at Jackson State. So everything went tremendous. You talk about not only the instruction they received, but the camp experience itself, and they were fed afterwards as well. So a lot of happy faces, a lot of guys got themselves on the radar, if you will, for a lot of schools. And then you had a tremendous amount of coaches who were there at the camps as well from around the state of Mississippi, Mississippi Valley, Alcorn, a lot of the JUCOs, as well as Mississippi College, Delta State, which was a Jackson State opponent this past season, but tremendous instruction from the Jackson State coaches to all these campers. So a lot of guys got a lot of eyes put on them this past weekend.
Well, I told you from the beginning that when this opportunity came forth that this was something that you had to pull the trigger on. You never knew which direction was going, whether it was going to be well received, whether it was going to work. Now, those parts you just don't know. I mean, people will try to come back and say they knew this, but you really didn't. But what's amazing to me, it far exceeds my expectations of why I thought you had to pull the trigger on this. And now I have a little more time. I told you that this was, an acquisition, if you would, coming together in terms of a business framework where you had these branding identities coming together, sharing a partnership, whether it's Jackson State, Coach Prime, and the SWAC. in this case, all coming together, great independent brands. When the collaboration took place, how it took things to another level. What I'm seeing even now is how intentional Coach Prime is. And I'm not sure if he gets recognized for his brilliance because he's so bombastic in a lot of ways. People don't get a chance oftentimes to really look behind that and the mindset of what he is. And those that have dissected what Dion athletically was able to do on the field, a lot of times you miss when his teammates and coaches talk about how much of he was a film watcher and a tacticianer and a science in terms of the game, of being able to take his ability to the next level, much like some of the other great ones, Michael Jordan, obviously, Irvin in terms of wide receiver, Jerry Rice, HBCU, all great, talk about how they were able to accelerate his skills. Well, now I'm seeing in a lot of ways that he's bringing all these things to the table. His experience from the media side and understanding what it means to be in the media and how do you make it work for you and not against you. How do you understand the several years that he was in terms of taking advantage of his skill set to be a coach, working with these high school athletes in terms of some of these All-American games. He's putting all that in place. His experience of what he saw at the high school level, his experience of seeing at the Power 5 level, his experience of the pros. He's putting all that on the table, and I'm not sure that we've ever seen this in our lifespan. And it may take 5 to 10 years as we come back later and see what took place. And we're in the middle of a transformation that we haven't seen. And I'm not saying those that are fans of their teams, and I'm not saying that you can do it a different way, but I'm saying the uniqueness of what he's getting done. I think this is from a pure business perspective, sport business person, a professor, analytically, strategically watching this. I'm seeing something that is amazing from the framework that I can't quite wrap my hands all around it because it's changing at a pace that far exceeds what I intentionally thought could take place. So I wanted to put that on the table. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about some news, but I thought it was important for me to share that with the viewers and listeners so they can maybe see a different perspective that they have not considered. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Mm-hmm. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports
Tell everybody
Network.
They can follow their dreams.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong.
Go get 'em.
It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Hello? Girl, somebody hit my car today.
What? You okay?
No, girl, I'm hurt.
You better call my lawyer, Terrence Madden of T. Madden and Associates. He got me super paid after my accident.
I saw him last Sunday giving away scholarship.
833 paid 123.
I'm attorney Terrence Madden. I love getting huge checks for injured clients. Dial 833 paid 123. 833 paid 123. Offices Atlanta, Jonesboro, and Augusta.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the...
No.
7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment. Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
Press the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. You know, I gave a little breakdown in terms of maybe a different way to look at what's taking place here, and not so much in terms of transfers, 4-star, 3 stars, 5 stars, whether your team is going to be ready and how things look in the fall. Let me go to you first, Mike, in terms of any thought process of what I put out there.
No, I think one of the points that hammers home with me, Doc, is I don't think we'll see the full potential realized for maybe another couple of years on what Coach Prime is doing, what he's bringing to the table. I think we're seeing, yes, immediate tangible benefits, but I think you're going to see something that's going to exponentially grow. You're talking about somebody who has succeeded in all facets of the game, created his own brand, genius in marketing. I mean, he did it at a time when there were very few others doing it. Someone who was a tactician and technically proficient at his game. No one studied the game. Few people knew that like he did. He's bringing that to young men. The other thing is how to navigate and how to succeed against. He's been at Power 5 schools, so he knows a lot about that landscape. So he's bringing a lot of these skill sets, a lot of this knowledge in one bag and bringing it to the table, and it's going to continue to unravel and be basically absorbed by players. And I think you'll see exponentially increasing tangible benefits year 2, 3, 4. It's an overall investment from my perspective, in which he's bringing, some assets to the table. He's growing that, nurturing it, and it's growing. So I think it's a wonderful thing. That's just my impression, my opinion on it. I know, CB is a lot closer to the situation, and can give you a lot more than I can. But from what I can see, it is tremendous for HBCU football, not just Jackson State.
That's the thing about Charles. Charles is hush mouth, man. He don't give you none of the internals. He's a good guy. He is truly about the business. He just speaks, on top, what's there. But I would like to ask you this, because I'm not going to tell anybody the conversations we had when this was an opportunity. I'm not going to say the direction that you talked about. We're going to keep that to us. We'll take that one to the grave. But with that being said, once it was made, you certainly were saying, let's be supportive and see what's going on. Has this gone beyond what you thought it could be? I do want to ask you that question, regardless of, what was originally thought about the process.
Tremendously. It has gone beyond what I ever imagined could have happened. Let me tell you 2 things definitive about Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. He's strategic as all get out. He's extremely intentional. And he has this foresight in terms of what it is he wants to see, and he wants it to get done as soon as possible. And the question becomes, not just for Jackson State, but for all of our HBCUs, is our infrastructure ready for it? I mean, because he's challenging the infrastructure, not just of the administrative levels of Jackson State, but challenging all HBCUs to step up. And that's going to be huge. I mean, are we ready for this seismic shift, this seismic change that's happening? And I don't know if we're all, potentially ready for it. I mean, it is, he is a shark in terms of the way he sees things. He never stops thinking, never stops moving. And like I said, when I say intentional, he's extremely intentional about what he wants to see get done for Jackson State football, for HBCU football in general. And he's demanding that seat at the table. And from what I see, a lot of times there's blowback to that. So many people are like, whoa, wait, you're taking us too fast. And there is no such thing as too fast with him. That is the thing that really jumps out beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, CB, along those lines, and as I was looking at it, another for me asking what you just stated is he setting up a model that other HBCUs either fearful or just plain can't at least establish?
That's a great question. Yes, he is setting up a model. I think it's going to be sort of a fear factor sort of situation for administrations to sort of take on this model, this change that we're starting to see. And all I can say is, why be scared? Examine the model, take it on, and go forth and run, and let's see what happens. I mean, it is mind blowing to watch what he is able to get done.
Yep.
Like a lot of the fans up there, including Mike, that has grown up in this HBCU culture from many different facets. Can you pinpoint what some of those concerns are, or at least in general provide some framework? Because we talk in these ambiguous terms in terms of being scared, but scared of what?
I don't know, and that's a good question. I don't know particularly, what as a whole, our HBCU fan base is scared of with regards to, some of the things that he's doing. And I say that from a standpoint, a lot of us act as guardians or gatekeepers for this HBCU culture, not wanting to let it get out. And, the reality of it is he's shining a light on this HBCU culture. And some of that light, the warts will get exposed as well. I think that's where you get some of the blowback that comes towards it.
Yeah, because you lift over the sheet, from outside, we can talk about all that's glamorous and beautiful and all the things, but obviously, like anything in life, everything is not good. There are some bads with it. And I guess if you've been in a situation where you haven't always had people acknowledge your good, it becomes frustrating when people try to acknowledge your faults or your bad. I think that's where some of the hesitation comes from my perspective, is that we have been ostracized in so many ways because we don't necessarily do the things in the same model as everybody else, that people don't necessarily appreciate that. One of the examples of that is what was originally the Heritage Bowl and now the Celebration Bowl model, because of that is outside the norm for FCS, even though in a lot of ways it copies the model for FBS, where there's revenue generated. You have a lot of folks that almost shun the framework that SWAC has decided and the MEAC in partnership in a lot of ways to take on this different model. And it's almost because people see it as different that it's deficient. And I've always told my students to be careful of looking at things just because it's different doesn't mean it's deficient. It's just that it's different. So look at the model and see if that model is something that works in the overall framework in terms of, in this case, revenue generating opportunities versus another model that doesn't generate revenue. Does it make sense to do that? Or do you just do the same with everybody else to get along, for a lack of a better word? So that's something that I'm intrigued about. We're up on our second break, and I hope people enjoy the fact that we taking more of a cultural awareness of business perspective of what's take place. We'll get back into some of the sporting updates after this break in the second half of the show.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. www.slowburnwaco.com.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
The new GMC Sierra with hands-free driving offers the most advanced and luxurious pickup in its class. Yeah, it rocks.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, trying to get down.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with the professors, Professor Bishop, Professor Washington. You know, we talked a little bit off the record in the segment, and we were asked to bring it back on air, so I'll sum it up like this before we get in the news. One of the things that I think is a challenge that's out there that people may not realize is when you asking folks to take things to the next level, you're still talking about resources. And we ignore the fact, I think because it's almost punishing for us to really know that our institutions have been deprived of those resources. We know it's true to the fact, but when you start really talking about the fact that our institutions have been deprived of millions of dollars, some people, if you look at it over the years, really billions of dollars. That's not something that you just overcome because you work harder or smarter. It is important to understand from our institutions, when you take revenue from one part of the institution and take it to another institution, you're going to deprive that other component of the university. There's no magical amount of money that is there. And that's why you always hear me talking about what is the revenue. We talk about folks that have great ideas, but what are the real revenue ramifications that you're bringing to the table? What checks, what true revenue are you talking about, either writing or acquisitioning in terms of what that looks like? And so that's the challenge you have when you're talking about leaders, when they're looking at the financial operation of the institution, and you're talking about, we need revenue over here. These institutions have been strapped so tight, it's very seldom that they're actually wasting money. They may not be spending it in the most prudent ways, but it's not a waste. It's like a boat that is taking over water. Yeah, you might put your finger in a hole, but there are 2 other holes that you're trying to fill. And, you know, the issue of deprivation of resources from state legislators or philanthropy at our institutions are real. And I just want to make sure that we understand that. And this is not to say that we can't do better, but it's real out there when you talk about how these institutions have been able to survive and not had the resources necessary. And even if you're talking about these alumni need to provide resources and do better, I certainly would agree about that. There's a way to do that. But you're also talking about generations that have been deprived of access and opportunity. So it's easier said than done when you're literally talking about people that have the first time to professional type of jobs, having to go back and take care of family that haven't had those resources. So they don't even have the income in terms of first and second generation folks. With that being said, don't want to get too far in that rabbit hole, but I thought it was important to put that on the table as it was asking the thing. So I did want to ask Mike, Go ahead. You can bring up another.
I want to acknowledge there's a conversation going on in the chat. I'd like to add. Chuck Hunt said, HBCUs tend to become territorial. And I agree with that to a certain extent. Over the years, they become territorial, used to doing things kind of in a certain mold, a certain time frame. The question is Deion in this approach seen as an outsider? Because when you're territorial, you become antagonistic to a certain degree toward outsiders. And the question and the chat is generating a conversation around that. I agree to a certain extent that in some aspects, Deion, the approach he's taken may be seen as kind of an outsider approach. There's nothing wrong. It's different. Going back to what Doc said, it's different, but I think some HBCUs may view it as an outsider approach. So just wanted to acknowledge.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, but I think if we really break that down, our institutions have never been a composite of just HBCU people.
Right.
They have always had individuals from outside of the HBCU framework, education or whatever. A lot of people may have had a better disposition of tying themselves into the HBCU culture. And oftentimes that has to do because of how well they did for the institution over a period of time. So people see them as HBCU folks. But I think it's a misnomer if we act like all HBCU folks. And it's not that all HBCU folks have done right by HBCUs. We need to put that on the table as well. But I think where you're going from, which is important to really analyze this in terms of understanding that, is people are about relationships. And so it's about cultivating the relationships in a different way. I'm sure there were Jackson folks that had a concern about Coach Prime coming into Jackson, but that's natural. I mean, the Power Five hire coaches that people question. They just have the resources available to navigate that space over a period of time. And if the coach is able to do it, then they can get past that. But hell, you still have people that are questioning Nick Saban in regards to his last couple of losses. Is he doing it? That's just the nature of sports in regards to especially this modern era where it's win at all costs and what have you done for me lately. So I think some of this is just the environment of understanding that people want what they want now. And then other folks are protective of their institution and wanting to win. So you have this limelight coming to Jackson State. You have some people that talk about the fact that they're not getting enough of love in regards to that, especially when you talk about media folks who have this conversation. They'll talk about what about FAMU and what about what Willie Simmons is doing, which is significant in that model in terms of what he's done. And we've tried on this show to make sure we talked about that the whole East, in terms of somebody in the West, is major concern in terms of what we've seen in the whole trajectory with Alabama A&M bringing in more transfer than anybody. Yeah, people are talking about the transfers to Jackson State, but if you really take the time and look at it, we talk about Alabama A&M brought in more transfers than any of the HBCU institutions at the FCS level, FCS period. You talk about South Carolina State, that they won the championship, and what is their model? It may be different, but it's been successful. But look at what they're being able to do in terms of enrollment, a new president that is setting up the framework that is setting stability to that institution. And you'll get a chance to play things out on the field because you had HBCU game. They released their top 10 and people went like different fields. It was great because it created dialogue. But it was amazing to me. It's just a poll in terms of people ranking. And I guess that's what it's supposed to do. If you do it well, it's supposed to create the dialogue. But it's amazing about some of the dialogue that people seem to really take it personal. It's like, man, this is just.
They do. Yes.
But I
take it real personal.
I think in some ways, it's affirmation that the culture is rich from how much people love HBCU sports, particularly football, right? In some areas, and how much it is meaningful to them in regards to how dare you say things that do not match with the way I think. And that's why I think it's important for this conversation to at least level set that a little bit, and let's have an open dialogue of what that really looks like and why we have some of these strange conversations that for some people would say is way off the course in regards to how we actually provide the discourse on HBCU sports. Go ahead, Charles. Did you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I've become amazed, I think, at how sometimes the art of dialogue becomes this sort of tribalism sort of deal, and it's a weird phenomenon. I don't know if it's a social media thing, like because groupthink is real, but it is just a weird sort of phenomenon to actually do a level set, to have the healthy discussion without the tribal. I can't believe they rank them this way, or I've got I don't know how many inbox with regards to the strength of schedule. It's like, yeah, okay, well, yeah, maybe their strength of schedule is not somebody else's strength of schedule. Weren't these schedules done 2 years ago or whatever the case might be? So and I get it. It creates dialogue, but it also you have to be careful. How personal you make it.
Yep.
Yeah, especially when you get on strength of schedule when none of the teams, 11 and 12 games, strength of schedule, unlike the NFL where they have all these parameters that force strength of schedule to me to be more real. And that's what frustrates me when you hear these terms of strength of schedules with somebody that is familiar with the algorithms in terms of the mathematical framework. So, yeah, you can have a strength of schedule, but somebody can have the strongest strength of schedules just because they play 2 FBS programs, which we rank with more scholarships as stronger. But what does that mean? A better measure would be able to mark the strength of schedule in terms of FCS programs and alone, and not excluding all non-conference games, because you're going to get some things that are not equal because you're not playing like you do in the NBA or the NFL, where you have the same teams playing a schedule based on some context of where you finished the season and where you are on your division. So that's why, some of this stuff, people don't even understand what they're really arguing about in the first place, because there's no equity and equality in terms of the formula that is being used in the first place.
It's not even a data point. I'm telling you. Not even a data point. It is just something to talk about. Because you ask 10 of those folks what they mean by strength of schedules, you'll get 10 different answers.
Thank you. Exactly. And so that's where it gets fascinating when you start breaking down these rhymes of reason in terms of those schedule nuances where you are. And I'll say this, we'll release our top 10 HBCU mid-major and major divisions next Tuesday. And it'll be interesting to see what the landscape says about our ranking. And the ranking we have is a composite of voters, a composite of these algorithms that are that come apart, that we use in so many different variations, that are borrowed from other algorithms. In a lot of ways, it's what I say about higher education when you talk about these ACTs, SATs, and GREs, about, in some ways, depending on what they're measuring, you can find out that they are discriminative in their whole nature in terms of what they began with in the first place. And so if you really do the research, you'll find out that you're using a measure that has bias in and of itself. And so I'm fine with that, as long as you understand it and know that. So I think it's great for us to come up and have these dialogues as we start to level set and get ready for the season, because we'll throw all this out the window and we'll start having conversations, and we're going to see what folks do on the field and try to provide some analysis of what that looks like. And you get the ultimate measure, for the most part, wins and W's, that allows you to at least shine in on a little more point in terms of who's good and who's not, and who may need to go back. let's close out in terms of this segment, get into our last segment. As we're closing out on baseball, I guess we'll get into the ninth inning. If you've been watching the opening rounds of the playoffs where you talk about Alabama State, as they lose out on Knoxville, you talk about Coppin State, as they had a great showing in their last game, putting up some runs. But in NCAA regionals, you had a lot of games where people were hitting the ball out of the yard, a lot of scores that were amazing when you talk about some of these scores, 20s and 17s, teens numbers up there. And not just one way, they're both ways in a lot of ways. So it's fascinating when you talk about that. We still got the track regionals, so we can get in a little bit. We'll certainly talk more about on Tuesday as those things start up. Wednesdays on the men's side and Thursday for the women's to open things up. So we'll talk about that in the last segment. But we wanted to give you some insight about just the HBCU business, HBCU sports. So we thought we'd turn things around for this show and just give you a different perspective and kind of have a dialogue since there's so much talk out there in this space. Hopefully people have appreciated a different perspective of how we talk about HBCU culture, the aesthetics, as I like to tell you about, in business from that perspective. Stick with us. We got one more segment. We'll come back and get into a little more about the HBCU news of the day.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Don't worry, Ma. We'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
They're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop. Want to shout out to the lab listeners. Great commentary, great questions and comments being made. Edwin Dwight Moore making some strong. Karen Griffin, Chuck Hunt always providing information. Chad Cooper putting in here. Wendy Jenkins Bishop, even though I'm not sure if somebody's supposed to be in class or not, but I'm not going to tell any names. But the fact that you're in our class, everything is going to be all right. But I do want to acknowledge those that are providing some great dialogue and conversation. Keep it going, because that's really what it's about. If we're going to really take things to the next level, it's going to be based on the fact that we can have meaningful dialogue. And to your point that you said about discourse, dialogue, and debate, I think some people fail to realize the difference between the two. I mean, oftentimes you debate because contextually it's about your ability to win. Can you put out things and show somebody over to come to your side. And that's one framework. I don't necessarily debate. I mean, that's just not where I am for the most part. Sometimes you'll have me provide. I like to get into discourse at best, is where you're really providing thought and framework on different things. And if you're really doing that, then you can get into what you talk about, meaningful dialogue. I think with social media platforms, oftentimes because you're not in an environment where you can sit down, we get lost more in the debate, right? And dialogue at best, and forget about the real discourse. So I did want to say that is one of the things that really something that we must consider is really thinking about changing the framework of how we enter into true discourse on a given subject. Let me stick with you, Charles, and get back to the fact of what's some of the news that you thought was important that's on your mind that captivated you over the last couple of days in terms of the HBCU sports coming into this week?
Yeah, well, let's take a look at HBCU coaches and players named to the College Football Hall of Fame ballot. So these gentlemen will be on the ballot. These are the HBCU players and coaches named to the ballot. Vincent Undertaker Brown, one of the all-time nicknames in HBCU ball, linebacker from Mississippi Valley State from 1987, first-team All-American. Parnell Dickinson from Mississippi Valley State, one of the coolest guys I've ever ran into. He was quarterback from Mississippi Valley, 1975, first-team All-American, Pittsburgh Courier, National Player of the Year. He threw the ball to this guy, Bob Gaddis, Mississippi Valley State receiver, 1974, first-team All-American, Pittsburgh Courier as well. Timmy Newsom from Winston-Salem State, Tyrone Poole from Fort Valley State. Eddie Hurt, Morgan State, from 1930 to 1959, led Morgan State to 6 Black College National Championships. Dwight Reed from Lincoln, Missouri, 1949-1971. His teams won 3 conference titles. He coached 93 All-Americans. And Gideon Smith from Hampton, 1921 to 1940, led the Pirates to the 1922 Black College National Championship and recorded 4 CIAA titles and 2 unbeaten seasons in his career. So those are the individuals from the HBCUs that will be on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot. Man,
in terms of Coach Eddie Hurt, that's somebody that could be on that 4 list, you know, the Greensboro 4, as I like to talk about it. That is a hidden to a lot of people that talk about those top 4 coaches in terms of the framework. He can be in the mix, certainly fabulous when you start to reading his historical bio and what he was able to do for the Morgan State Bears. Mike, what's some HBCU news on your mind?
I tell you what impressed me. You know, we were looking at how, you know, Coppin State, you know, how they finished, how Alabama State finished. But Shamar Page named Division I All-American, I believe second team. You talking about impressive young pitcher. He finished the SWAC at number 1 with an ERA of 2.6. He allowed the opposing team to have a batting average of less than 200, 0.193 to be exact. That means less than 2 people, every 10 batters got a hit. That's mathematically great in baseball. So the highlight of his career came on April 22nd when he threw just the 34th perfect game in NCAA Division I history versus Alcorn State. We talk about, you know, kind of the absence of the pitching depth in our HBCUs, but here you have a couple, and he didn't finish. I mean, he was strong, but you got to look at it. Hunter Vitz for Florida A&M, also ERA 2.90, similar numbers. Breon Pooler from Alabama State, Robert Maldonado from Prairie View, Hector Vasquez from Bethune, but Shamar Page was head and shoulders above the rest this year. Kudos, congratulations to him. NCAA Division I All-American second team. So I look to see hopefully that young man gets a shot at the next level.
Yeah, that's big time when you broke it down in terms of the math. I like the way you snuck that little data point in there. And you talking about doing it in the West where you had a lot of teams that could hit that ball. That was not the guy that you wanted to go up against in terms of trying to get the win doing your 3-game series over there in the West. Fascinating that didn't go maybe deeper in the tournament, but let you know how important it is to have a rotational set of guys to get you through a weekend of baseball. Wanted to put this in there and get your thoughts in terms of where this is going. 2002 SWAC Football Media Day is set to be carried on live on ESPN3. That is Thursday, July the 21st at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time in Sheraton, Birmingham. The event will be streamed live on ESPN3 with college football commentators Tiffany Green, Jay Walker teaming up to host the one-day event. 12 SWAC head football coaches and 2 student athletes from each team will be in attendance to address the media about the upcoming 2022 football season. The thing that I'll say about this, I was excited about last year, just the new coming, but I think in a lot of ways that this year will be even more exciting, even more people wanting to get a sense and provide some information either to their followers or just themselves in covering SWAC Football Media Day 2022. Sticking with you, Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of what the media day may be like this year?
Yeah, I think you hit it. Last year there was a nostalgic feeling coming in. You know, Coach Prime. There was a lot of excitement. Now we know what to expect. We're looking for more of what we saw, and I need some more nuggets to take back to my organization or institution. Here's what I saw. Here's the tone that this coach had. That's what I expect to see a lot of now. I expect a totally different, tone this year than 1 year ago. I wonder if you'll see a difference in media. A lot of media. That just being quite frank, I think you have a lot of draws there, not only with the coaching personalities, but with the recruits that you have now. There's been a lot of talk about all of the recruits that, universities are bringing. You talked about Alabama A&M, you talked about FAMU, of course, Jackson State, but, there'll be a lot of buzz and a lot of questioning, I think, may be a little bit different as well for some of the coaches and some of the players as well.
Charles, what are your expectations coming into the 2022 SWAC Media Day in Birmingham?
It's going to be must-see TV. I think when you take a look at it, and with all the buzz that's happening within the HBCU stratosphere now, and obviously there's been a glut of podcasters and more media personalities that have come into this space. I think this is going to be another one for the ages. When you take a look at what these coaches and these players do, they whet the appetite for the season. The SWAC Media Day has always been a great draw for, even going back to the days when it used to travel from city to city. So you take a look at that framework and what is going on now within HBCU football. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun time. And, we always get some very interesting nuggets. I think Shador provided some bulletin board material for everybody last year. So you never know what you might get this upcoming year.
Thing about it, though, to his credit, he put it out there, but he backed it up.
Yeah,
so we got to put that out there as well. Phil Evans joins the Bison volleyball staff from MEAC. This is a championship level volleyball team that is getting deeper in terms of expanding their staff. Head coach Sean Cooperberg, if you would, of Howard University women volleyball announced Monday in terms of that. Coming from Xavier Gold Nuggets out of Louisiana, Evans joins the Bison family after spending his last 2 seasons down in that way. Xavier has a pretty good volleyball program, so it'll be interesting to see what that may mean for the women on the volleyball side. Also, we have athletic changes in terms of administration. We've heard some of the backstory that this may be happening, but it's become official. Mississippi Valley State has named McClellan, that's with no D, new athletic director from SWAC.org. Dr. Gerald Briggs Sr. has announced that Hakeem, a Valley alum, is the school's new athletic director. Briggs expressed excitement to welcome McClellan and his family back to Mississippi Valley State. He is expected to start his new role June 15th, coming out of Jackson State. It sounds like Ashley is growing a little bit of a tree over there in terms of folks getting opportunity to be athletic director. Prairie View, obviously. One is an individual on the staff is the athletic director at Houston-Tillotson University. And so it's fascinating to see how the SWAC has changed over in terms of athletic directors becoming much younger, if you would, in a lot of ways, which is fascinating when you see that across the board now with this changeover. So any thoughts before we close out on that news or just in general, starting with you, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, he adds to an exciting crop, like you said, of young athletic directors who are business savvy. I see Mississippi Valley State already has this elevate sort of a moniker that they're going into the season with. But, you know, branding, another important element, another business model element that we see these athletic directors bringing into these institutions. So very excited for Akeem. He is a tremendously hard worker. I got an opportunity to work with him and watch him at Jackson State. I couldn't be happier for him, and he's definitely going to bring a different dynamic to Mississippi Valley State athletics.
Go ahead, Mike. Any last thoughts? Anything that you have on that? Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, my thoughts. Yeah. You just add to this growing crop of young guns that are being placed in these positions. There's a reason why their approach. They bring a youthful exuberance, enthusiasm, and so I think it's a trend that you will continue. I'll say you have enough data points to call it a trend, but. You know, I'm kudos to the young man. I think he'll do good. He is a Mississippi Valley State product.
Yeah.
Yes, he has some serious skin in the game. So kudos to him. He does have a little Prairie View blood in him. He held a couple of positions on the yard. So kudos to him. I think overall you'll continue to see this trend of young guns. I'd be remiss because this last Thursday, I don't know if you acknowledged it. I won't acknowledge it again. Prairie View wins 2021-22 SWAC Commissioner's Cup. Congratulations to those Panthers. Yes, I am now going unprofessional. So kudos to the Panthers organization. They won 8 SWAC championships this past athletic year, 167 points. Yes, I said again, 167 points, but titles in soccer, bowling, men's and women's indoor track, men's and women's outdoor track, softball. So the next closest school was that little school in Mississippi, State. But I'm not. All I'm talking about is what I'm talking about. I'm just looking at data points. So no, seriously, I say that in just congratulations to the Prairie View A&M University athletic department, staff, team, and all those organizations who won championships this past year.
Yeah, congratulations, PV. They won. I think they were able to capture all 3 trophies overall, the men's and the women's. So, congratulations to the athletic department.
Mike knows that we put that out there, but he had to find a way to wrap it and put his finger on it.
I had to go put it again.
You did a good job, so well done. I will say that. You were able to put it in there. You even had Charles acknowledge and make sure he said congratulations. So well done. Well done. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab, College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. So we'll be back here Thursday to give you the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismiss.